Kia ora koutou, ko Brooke tuka ingoa. I'm Brooke, one of the co-founders and co-CEOs of Sharesies, and really excited to be introducing Shared Lunch Kids Investing Series. This all kicked off because we want to make sure we make the most of this time we've got over summer, and as we spend more time with our mokopuna or our children, the tamariki in our life, what a cool opportunity to help them learn a bit more about investing. So this is a 3, maybe 4-part series where we're going to be interviewing people who really care about either educating children and especially educating children more about money. I'm hoping at the end of this that you get tips and you learn a little bit of other ways that you can be having conversations with the children in your life when it comes to money, investing, and helping them build really healthy habits and a real healthy engagement when it comes to money. So today's conversation, we're lucky to have Ruth Henderson. She is from Happy Saver, so she's got an awesome blog and you're going to hear a lot more about that soon. Before we get started, here is some important information.
Investing involves risk. You might lose the money you start with. We recommend talking to a licensed financial advisor. We also recommend reading product disclosure documents before deciding to invest. Everything you're about to see and hear is current at the time of recording.
No mai haere mai, welcome Ruth. How are you today?
Kia ora, lovely to meet you. I'm excellent, thank you. Beautiful day down here in Central Otago.
Oh, lovely. Hey, to kick off, I thought it'd be good to hear a bit about your journey. How has investing played part in your family life?
Oh, God, that is a massive question given my advanced years now. But so I think like many people grew up, didn't pay much attention to money, always wanted more of it, never had enough of it, stumbled on a good education, a good career, a lovely husband, and that led us to start to accumulate money, which led us to do the kind of typical things, buying a house, etc., etc. We paid it off, and it was pretty much after we paid off our house that I thought, well, hang on a minute, what do I do with the money now? And I knew I didn't want a second house, and that led me to investing. And so I had a kind of a winding road to learn as much as I could about investing. And then because of that, my husband Johnny said to me, because I'd come to him and I'd say, oh my gosh, I've learned about shares, I've learned about this, that, and the next thing. And he'd say, well, if you are stumbling upon this, others will be interested to know. So that led me to start the Happy Saver, which was about 7.5 years ago now, I think. And I've been sort of blogging about it ever since. And that's got me in touch with a massive range of Kiwis who email me all day long, and also fortunate enough to have a daughter of my own. And so I've been able to practice on her basically for the last 16 years now.
So what was your exposure to investing before you got into home ownership and the ability to have it paid off and, you know, feeling that sense of freedom to invest in other ways?
Well, prior to that, I had no knowledge of it whatsoever. I grew up in kind of provincial New Zealand where farming was a big thing, and my only thought about investing was farmers who would talk about getting dividend payouts. And there were times a year that the rumour in the towns was there's the farmers that had their payouts, big checks have come in, and that's what I linked to investing. And then you heard of blue chip stocks and that sort of thing, but I really had no understanding of what it was. And it was probably after the house was paid off, it was John Key at the time, he started to privatise like energy companies, and he said it was Meridian Energy, mum and dad investors, this is your chance to get involved in the share market. And that was the beginning. I'd had a few wee forays into it, but it was like, gosh, help me out here, Brooke. It wasn't tech stock, it was all those e-commerce companies. Remember those times? Yep. And so, you know, at the local pub, somebody that I thought knew enough would say, oh my gosh, you've got to buy eForce. I remember as being one company. So we bought money, you know, we bought shares in that, and they promptly went, phew. Somebody else said, oh my gosh, you've got to buy this, bought shares in that, that sort of thing. And it wasn't until I did buy into Meridian Energy, and it was a slow process. It took a long time, but that was actually quite good, because during that time, I learned a little bit about the process along the way. And then that just kickstarted me, and I just went looking. Because, of course, once I bought one winning company, I thought, now I've got to find the next one. And that's where I met a bit of a stumbling block, as to find the second, the third, etc. So that sent me off on a whole journey, which I've not stopped learning, basically.
So you've found some stocks that haven't worked that well for you. Then you found some that did. What are the things that you look for now when you're personally investing, and what have you learned along the way to kind of avoid and to stay true to?
Well, I have simplified things somewhat, and it was stumbling across, and I'm sure you've heard this before, J.L. Collins' The Simple Path to Wealth, that American guy who wrote a book, and I think it was 2016, and basically he had a daughter, and from a young age he was really interested in shares and stocks and picking stocks and that sort of thing, and had been very successful at it, but then he later learned about ETF investing, and instead of picking one company, one sector, you just buy all the companies, all the sectors. And so he tried to teach his daughter that, and she was just like, oh, Dad, shut up. I'm just not interested. And so he wrote her a series of letters about what he's learned as an investor, and then he put that into a book to save all the rest of us the hassle. And it was reading that book, which would have been in about 2017, something like that, that's when I went down that path of just ETF investing and just simplified what we were doing, divesting myself of individual companies. I don't hold any anymore, and we've just continued down that path. And then with a young daughter in my house, it was like, let me tell you things I've learned, to which she said, oh, I'm not interested, don't want to hear about it. So it's been awesome teaching somebody who has no interest. It's been quite the entertainment, I can tell you. Yeah.
So you started with the foray into individual companies. Now you're completely into exchange traded funds. Like the author you mentioned, his daughter told him to shut up. You've had your daughter go, I am not interested whatsoever. What made you choose to continue teaching her about investing, and how did you overcome that? I don't want to learn from you, Mum, or whatever the kind of pushback that you're receiving.
I have never given up, because through my blog and my podcast, there's not a day goes by that I don't hear from somebody who at the age of 30, 40, 50, 60 said, why did nobody ever teach me this? Why did nobody ever teach me this? And I've had lots of conversations with these people and said, well, are you sure your parents didn't try and teach you about good money behaviors? And they're like, well, yeah, they probably did, but I wasn't interested. And so I just didn't want that to be her. And so much like she has to brush her hair, brush her teeth, empty the dishwasher, she also has to invest her money, etc., etc. So it just became, it's just a non-negotiable. And so, but not in a mean way. I'm a lovely person, I promise you. But it was just, we've just led by example from day dot. And so from day dot, because Johnny and I talk about money openly, from day dot, she's been around and she's heard those conversations, and then she's brought into those conversations. And then as she's got older and started to earn pocket money and the likes of that, we talk about what we're going to do with that pocket money. So, and that's the thing when I'm talking to people about investing, you're never one and done. It's 1,000 tiny conversations that add up to people's knowledge about Pūtea, is the way I see it. And so she's 16 now. She's doing great. She's still not interested in money, but she doesn't get a free pass on it. She's still engaged in conversations that we have. So, yeah, which is in a way much like the book I read, his daughter. Like I've just read his updated book called Pathfinders, and they interviewed his daughter at the end, and she said, I'm still not interested in money, but I've learned the basic skills and I'm fine. So, and that's the thing. It's like when it comes to learning about investing, you don't have to know everything. It's like when you learn to cook, you don't learn to cook every cuisine in the world. You learn what works for you. You learn and you cook that. And I think it's sort of the same with investing. And so with her, I know the type of person she is. I know how she likes to learn. And so I give her pearls of wisdom in the way she likes to hear them, basically. Yeah.
I really like that analogy of compounding knowledge, equivalent to compounding returns in investing, which means, that knowledge day by day, that incremental, that consistency in terms of talking about money and talking about investing and having those conversations over time pays off, and start to learn without even realize you're learning, just from the exposure to hearing about your family's money conversations. Would you be able to give us a bit of an insight in terms of what are the types of conversations that you do have in your household when it comes to money?
Sure. So, I mean, starting off when she was just tiny, you know, trips to the supermarket, it is the simple things like, okay, we want to buy some spaghetti. Look, we have 3 types of spaghetti. What is the price of each? Which is the cheapest, which is the most expensive? Lots of little conversations like that, build and build and build. And then on the other side of that, it's things like if the power bill arrives, I'll say to her, it was $150. And then in June, I'll say it was $350. And so throughout the year, she just builds up an awareness of what things cost. And so, you know, the groceries every week, we as a family try and spend $250 a week. And we all know this. And so if she's down helping us shop, she knows that we are sticking loosely to this $250 a week. So if she's looking at the $15 tub of ice cream, she knows that $15 takes up a lot of the $250. Maybe I'll look at a different ice cream. So it's things like that. But then on the other side, we actively always have shared what we earn. And so, you know, when my paycheck arrives, I'll say I made $350 at my part-time job. It's the same with Johnny. It's the same if we buy an item or sell an item. It's like, I just think, what's the big deal when people are like, that they won't talk to their children about money? It's like, what's the big deal? And even if she did go to school and say, my mum earned 50 grand a year or whatever, so what? I think it just gives a reference point. And for her, you know, she says things that in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, yes, she gets it. Like she'll be at the canteen at school, at the high school, and she notes what other people spend. She's not judging. She doesn't say anything, but she'll come home and she'll say to me, like, the nachos went up 50 cents, Mum. Why'd they go up 50 cents? You know, things like that. Or she will note the kids that are mindful about what they're buying there, or the kids that look at the rest of the line and said, I'm buying, you know, Mum's given me $20 today. Who wants whatever? So she's just aware. And that's what I think our conversations have had. And that's why I will always say it's good to talk to your kids about money, because it touches every part of our life, whether we want to believe that or not, it actually does. Yeah.
Yeah, being money aware is so crucial. And I think especially in this digital day and age where you don't see the coins, the 50-cent mixtures as much as the things, you know, that back in the day when we were growing up. What are some other ways, or especially when it comes to investing, what are some ways that you have taught your daughter about investing, and how have those conversations developed as she's, you know, grown to the 16-year-old she is now?
Yeah. We've had a rule in our house since she got her first pocket money, and like pocket money for us has always been like $1 for every year of their age, and that sort of has seemed to work relatively well. So now that she's per week. Yep. So now that she's 16, she gets $16. However, for every dollar she's ever earned, I've made her invest half of that. So she has a 50% savings rate. And initially, she literally thought I was stealing off her. Like, yeah, there's been a few times it's been quite funny, actually. But anyway, I said, that's the deal. You save 50%. And so so that's been from the get-go. And initially she started with piggy banks. I still think they're worth the parent going downtown to get the money out, which is a huge hassle because you and I never really use money anymore. But for kids, it's tangible. They like that, and they count it, and they see when it's spent, it's gone, and that sort of thing. And then as we gently progressed into bank accounts, when she must have been about 13, I went and got her own bank account with her own FPOS card and the likes of that. And then I just said to her, well, you're a mini me, and my banking system is that I have money I spend, I have money I set aside for things I'm saving up for, and I have money that I send to investments. So she's exactly the same. And so I've gone off track with what your question was, Brooke, but how did I teach her about investing? It was like, okay, you've earned $10 this week, go and spend $5, enjoy yourself, have a great time. And if it's all gone, it's all gone, that's fine. But within that $5, think too, if you are saving up for something like, you know, a TY, you know, those little toys all the kids love, that was her thing for a while there. So if you're saving up for a TY, let's go find out what it costs, the $15. How, you know, you set aside a little bit of your $5 until you got enough, then go buy the thing, knock yourself out. But the other 50% will be invested using Sharesies, and she's been with Sharesies for probably, I think it must be about 4.5 years now, something like that. So she just got a sub account off mine. And from when she was really young and rolling her eyes, which she still rolls, I'd say, come and sit with me at my computer, you drive the mouse and click here, click here, click here. And I would just have her invest everything into one broad-based ETF fund. And that was it. Click, 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 done. And she always loved, initially it was it pineapples? You had pineapples? Loved that. And now it's love hearts. Is it love hearts now? Yeah. So she would wait for that to run across the screen and she'd be off. And so although I'd say to her, when you click this button, you're investing in 500 companies or whatever it might be, in one ear, out the other, she'd look for the pineapples and then the love hearts, off she goes. But then as time's gone on, we drive down the street and she sees a Tesla and I'll say, you're a part owner in that company. She will go to, she'll get out her Apple phone. You're a part owner in that company and that sort of thing. So she's getting this awareness. And now from time to time, she'll see a company and she'll say, do I own that, Mum? And it's like, oh, yeah, you do actually. So teeny conversations add to the narrative. And it's pretty cool to watch, actually. And so now what we do, now that she's 16 and she's got a part-time job of her own, she has to save 50% of that income as well. And what I'll say to her is probably every 2 or 3 weeks, certainly every month, I'll say, just log into your bank, add up all the money you've earned and send half of it to Sharesies. And that's what she does now. And yeah, so it's not automatic yet, but she knows it will be happening. She knows it has to happen. And sometimes she'll, in passing, walk past and say, yeah, I've sent money to Sharesies, Mum. So it's like, I'll take it, man. I would love to have a daughter that I could sit down and talk about this, that, and the next thing. I didn't have that daughter, but I'll take what I can get. And so, and then what I've done for her is I've created her, I track my own spreadsheet, on my own spreadsheet, our net worth, and I actually have tracked her net worth for years as well. And I've done up a paper version, like the big old graph paper, and I've tracked hers. And so I show her from time to time. I say, look how your net worth's tracking. Over time, it only goes up. So it's like all these little conversations, we're moving in the right direction. Yeah. So my plan is when she leaves home at 18, whenever it's going to be, that she knows how to budget, she knows what KiwiSaver is and that she pays into it. She knows that regular investing is just non-negotiable. She saves up for the things she knows she wants and she has money in the bank. That's the direction we're heading.
That is super impressive. How are you working with her to continue and keep that habit? Yeah, how are you thinking about what you want her to be doing with that money as she ages?
Yeah, because the biggest fear with people not talking about money with their children is that because a lot of people save for their children and invest for their children, but they don't tell them, because their biggest fear is that they'll get access and they'll just blow it all on a car. I am paving the way, and no part of me is concerned about that, because she has seen that you make money slowly, and the higher your income, well, the faster you can save and invest. But currently she doesn't earn that much. So she has been part of 16 years of regular kōrero about what is happening with money. And so when she leaves home, I don't think any part of her will think, new car, here we go. I just don't think she's going to do that, because I talk to her about why she's investing this money. And I think that's a really important thing for kids, and particularly teenagers who can understand it a bit better. What is the point of saving and investing money? What is the point? And so we talk to her about the money in your bank account. 50% of it is spending. Spend it however you like. Have a great time. The other half is invested for your future. What does your future look like? Well, the chances of you going on to tertiary education are relatively high, or you might want to start a business, or you might want to travel the world. This pot of money that you've got saved, saving and investing, two different things. This pot of money you have invested with Sharesies over here, that's what that could be worth. And so I, like at the moment, first year of university fees costs about $7,000 for just an average degree, something like that. So these are things I've looked up and talked to her about so that she can get a reference point. But at the end of the day, that money is her money. And so when I track her net worth, it's her money, her money, her money. And so I've given ownership to her from the get-go. And it's not like you better make your bed or I'm not going to give you the money. No, it's her money, and I'm just going to trust that she makes the right call with it, and I'm pretty confident that she will. Get back to me in 5 years, Brooke.
Might get back to her.
Yeah, good idea. Yeah.
So you've installed this habit ever since she first got her money. Has there been any real challenge on the journey?
Not really. And like, she's not she's an awesome teenager, but I get pushback, that's for sure. But when this 50% saving rate came along, that was when we had the first problems. But she was only little, and she was like, "You're stealing half of my money. This is not fair." And that's why I show her where her money is. And I say, you haven't spent that money. It's over here. So the money you're separating, it's still there. It's all there, and it's growing because we've invested that money. But when it comes to other things you might want or need, just like in our own life, Johnny and I, we're always thinking ahead. It's like, okay, what is coming up? We're going overseas for a holiday next year. What is it going to cost? How are we going to prepare for that? How are we going to save for that? The laptops we use, when might they need replacing? Probably in 2 years. Let's start thinking about that now. And it's the same for her. And so I say, what's cool with teenagers? What do you need? What do you shoes, technology, whatever, what's on your horizon? And she'll tell me things. And it's like, okay, in your bank account, set up another bank account, a sinking fund. Let's find out the value of this item and let's start you saving for that. So like, she, with her phone, when she bought it, we said we'd pay half, and that's fine, don't mind doing that. So she went researching what does a phone cost and that sort of thing. And that was one where there was a rub. She had to save $400, and she's like, "This is impossible. How am I ever going to do this? I only make, what would she have made a week? $12 a week or something like that then." And it's like, okay, let's get creative. How are you going to find the money? And so I'm always behind her, actively encouraging her to sell things she no longer needs, to cat sit for the lovely lady next door, all these ways to earn money, because that's where money comes from. It comes from working and that sort of thing. So, and she, on the fridge, she drew a nice graph of where every time she got $10, she crossed up, blah, 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 blah. And before she knew it, she got the money that she needed. So, and bearing in mind, for her to save $400 to spend on a phone, she had to earn $800 because she has to have this 50% saving rate. And I remember at the end of that, and it didn't take her long, it was literally a couple of months, she said, "Oh, that was a little bit easier than I thought." And it's like, yes, it was, wasn't it? And so saying to her that even with stealing half of your money to invest, you still got the thing you wanted. So, valuable life skill there. And so now she has a sinking fund. She's already got the money set aside for the next phone. And we don't know when her phone's going to break, but it will, something will happen to it. So the money's there for the next phone. She had her eye on a pair of shoes. And so she researched what are the shoes worth. And so we set up just a direct payment from her checking account into her shoe sinking fund. And every week, money went in. And we were in Christchurch 2 months ago and she bought the shoes. So we don't have grief about money. Yeah. And if there is grief, it's like, okay, let's talk about it. Let's plan for it. How can we fix it? Yeah.
You mentioned a sinking fund. So just to make sure I've got that clear, when you reference a sinking fund, you're talking about when you've created a savings account that's specific for a something you're going to spend the money on, say like the phone or the shoes. It's a specific account, a savings account, for instance, that once they reach that goal, they go and sink it by buying the thing that they were looking for.
That's exactly what it is.
Since your daughter has been learning a lot about investing and how to manage her money, have you noticed this have any ripple effects, like on her friends, the rest of your family, maybe even the wider community?
Yes and no. Money is still taboo, which is unfortunate, and I am trying to change that. And people who know me know that I will talk about anything money related at the drop of a hat. But I don't within my own friend group and the likes of that. They know I have my blog. They know we're interested in this sort of stuff, but most of them we don't ever talk about money, which is a shame. And if they're watching this, always keen for a chat. But with my daughter, her friends, she has mentioned to them some of the things she's doing, and that's made them go, "Say what?" And she's like, "Oh, you should talk to my mum. She knows all about it." And so a few of her friends, they have come to me and just asked me questions. And it's like, "Oh, hello, yes, and I've helped them out with that. And so hopefully I think that they have worked out that I'm an open book, a resource to use. And, I can think of one really lovely example recently where a young friend of hers, my daughter's got herself a job in the Cherry Pack House in Central Otago this summer with an hourly rate of, I think it's $22.70 an hour, $23 an hour, something like that, which is outstanding for a 16-year-old. Her friend got a job in the same pack house, but they offered her youth rates. So we've got this disparity. Two of them were talking and realised there's this $5 difference in income. And so what that led was a conversation between me and her friend, and I helped her write an email to the company just saying, I am aware that my friend is on this rate and I'm on this rate. We will be working beside each other doing the same job and the same hours. I would like to ask for a pay rise to be the same as her, and it was a lovely email. They could have said yes, they could have said no, and they said yes. And so to me, as a woman, helping young women do things like that to ask for what you're worth, it's like, I love those conversations. So the more the merrier.
That's a great example of financial empowerment. I forgot to ask one question around pocket money. You mentioned how you pay the amount that the age that they are each week. So $1 if they're a year old to $16 a week if they're 16. How do they earn that money? Is it just given, or do they have to do certain chores, or how do they earn the pocket money?
I think maybe in the early days there were set tasks, but now I just tell her that she has to be a generally useful and functioning member of the whānau, basically. And so it used to be always by 6 o'clock on Sunday night, her room had to be tidy, and I got to decide what was tidy or not. And then just generally be helpful. So if during the week you walk in the kitchen and there's dishes everywhere, you get one chance here. It's like, tidy up the kitchen, please, because pocket money's on Sunday. And so if I was happy at 6 o'clock on Sunday with her level of participation, here comes the money. Yeah.
Cool. So what I've heard is that in the early years, make it real, have real cash, and make it visible too, in terms of the drawings on the wall when you're saving up for something and seeing the tally, add up, and physically drawing it, to making the connections around your environment in terms of, oh, there's a Tesla car, you own a bit of that. And, you've got an Apple phone, you own a bit of that. You're an owner in those companies. And also that pocket money being around how those Sunday conversations around pocket money going, has the household functioned well today, and have you contributed well this week to ensure that that this money has been well earned, and that 50% goes straight off to investing and saving, and the other 50% they get to choose to either spend, save, or give that.
Sums it up nicely. Yeah, because the one thing that's amazed me is how much money can come the way of children. It's, and that's just not my example. It's, people I know and the likes of that, we give her $16 a week. She's just had a birthday. Here comes $20 this way. She just, spend a weekend feeding the neighbour's cats. There's $20, etc. And she's got her part-time job, which is a whole 2 hours a week. It's pretty full on. But, she's paid for that. So it amazed me how much in little amounts money comes their way. And if she sells books that she no longer reads, or toys that she no longer has, these all just little bits keep coming their way. And if for every bit that comes their way, they have a plan for it, then when bigger amounts come their way, they have a plan for that as well.
So my final question is, do you have one cool game that a parent or well-meaning adult can play with a child that teaches them about money? And another, is there any resources or, books and reading that a well-meaning adult can do, or also for children when it comes to money, that you recommend?
Gosh, that's hard. Monopoly, great game. I'm not a property investor, but the yin and yang of Monopoly, I think that's always been a good game. And in my family, I've got 4 siblings, and we always played Monopoly as a big family. And my siblings always said, Ruth always wins. So maybe I was always destined to do okay. But yeah, Monopoly is...
banker, is that why?
Yes. And so Monopoly is a good one. But games. I think there are some good money games out there. But I think with games and money, you can't ram it down their throats. Like if I had said to her, let's sit down and play this money-focused game, she would have been out the door. And so that is why just these daily conversations around how money ebbs and flows in and out of this household, that's what's most important.
And then reading, obviously the Happy Saver. But any reading that you recommend?
Yeah. Oh, I did pay her and a friend to review the Barefoot Investor for Kids. So the Barefoot Investor has kind of 3 books: Barefoot Investor for Kids, Barefoot Investor for Families, Barefoot Investor, just overarching book. That was his first one. And so for younger kids, like 15 years and younger, that kids book is absolutely fantastic. And if you've got a child that is quite motivated to earn money and learn about money, I think it's a great one. And then Barefoot Investor for Families is good, because the thing I've found is so many parents don't have enough information themselves. And so how can they teach their children if they're not sure themselves? And so that's why Barefoot Investor, I think, is always a great place to start. And then there's actually other ones like Dave Ramsey, somewhat controversial, Dave Ramsey, but his book Total Money Makeover, and another book called Everyday Millionaires by Chris Hogan. They're good books as well. And of course, J.L. Collins' Simple Path to Wealth for the adults out there. He hasn't written a kids version.
And of course, Sharesies Guide to Investing.
And of course, Sharesies Guide to Investing. It is on my bookshelf for sure.
You gotta do it, Is there anything else you would like people to know about how to teach kids about money?
Talk about money to yourself and get a grip yourself on where your money comes from and where it goes to, and then start thinking longer term about what you want your future to look like and what you might need to rearrange amongst your own systems to make that happen. And then talk to your children about that process too. And money in our household has always been this calm, interesting, rational conversation to have. So if the adult's stressed about money, that absolutely transfers through to the children. So if you can avoid doing that, do that. And because when I do my podcast and I talk to people 30, 40, 50, 60 and beyond, so many of them say money was always a stressful topic growing up in my household. But then there's also ones that say, oh no, money was good in our household. Like mum and dad talked to me about it and I didn't know all the nitty gritty, but I had some idea. So be those parents that you don't have to have all the answers, but you can have a calm head about it. So that's key. And the information is out there, podcasts like this, the book you have, and just, all the emails you guys put out, and any investment platform puts out a lot of information to educate people. Look for that information, teach yourself. And then if you've got kids beside you, say, oh my word, I just learned about a sinking fund. Let me tell you about a sinking fund, and just have that conversation. Yeah, just talk about money more.
I think that is easier said than done in terms of the feelings around money. But the more that we do talk about it, we actually realize that a lot of other people are in a similar situation, and we can learn from each other and feel less whakama and worry around it over time. And as we start to empower ourselves, we can empower the future generations, which is really exciting.
It is often difficult to find that person within your friend group. I got a lot of friends. They don't want to talk about money. So this is what my blog has done. I found people who do. They happen to be online, but then that's led to real world meetups and that sort of thing. So just find online platforms that talk about this sort of thing, and you'll find real friends virtually. Like, it absolutely happens.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, Ruth. And thanks to everyone tuning in. Next week, we'll have child psychologist Nigel Ladder talking about kids and money. Don't miss that conversation. And remember, you can watch Shared Lunch on YouTube or follow the podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Leave us a rating and tell us what you think and what you want to hear about next. Until then, ka kite anō.